Welcome to the Circle of Trust podcast with your host, law firm CMO Keith Dyer. Brought to you by LEXGRO, the leader in law firm marketing strategy, training, and implementation. If you're ready to grow your law firm with predictable case flow and revenue, you're in the right place.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Circle of Trust podcast. I'm joined today by my new friend, Howie Golden. Hello, Howie.
How are you, Keith?
I'm doing well, thank you. Howie is the owner of Capital Financing, a company that is based in Atlanta, Georgia, that helps personal injury firms and maybe other kinds of law firms. We'll learn more about that in a minute. But I know that he helps personal injury law firms finance basically the execution of their cases. And so, Howie, we can talk more about that. But before we get into it, tell us a little bit about Howie. I know you said you were from New York. You just told me a minute ago, it sounded like you were a doctor for many years. And now you are that's a pretty interesting jump to go from being a doctor to a financier. But let's find out some more. Tell us how you got into this.
Never heard of that one before. Yeah, my journey's been quite interesting. I'm based in Atlanta. I've been here 32 years. I'm actually from New Jersey. We call it the suburb of New York.
What town in New Jersey?
It's called Manalapan, but I'm from the shore, by the shore. We always like to say we're a suburb of Manhattan. We're 40 minutes outside of Manhattan.
Yeah, I was in the house one summer in Stone Harbor and on the shore.
Yeah, we were smack in the middle of the state, and found myself go out to school in Arizona, University of Arizona. Ended up coming back to Atlanta, and have been here, like I said, 32 years. I was a chiropractor for 18 years, and just
yeah. Now I see the connection.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's interesting that the road, a simple 36,000 foot view is, I've always been entrepreneurial, always looked at finding solutions to common problems for whatever I was doing. I ended up becoming a chiropractor out of a passion. Found me when I was 13 years of age and had a great run. Got into the personal injury side really from treating my own patients and loving it and loving the challenge. I started a personal injury conference back in 2002 called Understanding Colossus, when Colossus was a hot topic in our industry, and ran pretty large conferences in Orlando and Georgia with my partner. And then started another company that's been called the LinkedIn of personal injury. That's called the Injury Specialists. We're celebrating our 20-year anniversary. We were pretty much.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Thank
you. It was a game changer for the industry at the time. It's like a social media platform, B2B, in the personal injury space. We were the first to offer medical funding, traditional medical funding, back in 2006, which again was solving a problem of not being able to get access to medical care back in the day, which today is very different than it was then. That company is actually scaling. Hopefully you may have him on your show, Keith. So hopefully your audience will hear about what he's doing. And then in 2010, I got introduced to plaintiff financing, and that was the birth and start of Capital Financing. And again, trying to really impact the industry and disrupt the industry as we did with the Injury Specialists. We learned the stigma of the plaintiff financing side, and lawyers had asked me to get involved in this business to solve the problem of the high interest rates and the gangster rates that we obviously know that they were very high. So I was the first in the industry to come up with gangster rates. Yeah, legal loan sharking, people call it. I thought it was a problem. And I thought the best way for me to impact the industry was to do something different. And I implemented a terminating interest model for the plaintiff lawyers' clients. And it was very well received, not necessarily by the industry and the people that were my competitors, because they called me, they emailed me, asked me.
You were disrupting the industry.
I was disrupting it at the time. I was being the first to cap interest was a big deal when nobody was, and they all thought that I'd be out of business in 6 months. And I look back 15 years later in over 30 states, here I am, still doing my thing, loving what I'm doing. And now you see other companies around the country that have gotten into this. They do apply capped interest models at 2 and 3 years, but not at 12 months. So we're still a unicorn in the industry. And then a few years ago, my new challenge, my new horizon was coming up with a solution to litigation financing. That was really more in the case expense financing for contingency lawyers, which are all the lawyers I worked with. And that seems to be an interesting topic for these podcasts. Get asked to speak. It's definitely impacting the industry. It's opening people's eyes, and it's challenging the status quo of what has been part of the industry for over 50 years. And I'll pause there, and if you got any questions, let me know.
No, I don't have any questions, maybe a couple, but I just want to take a second and acknowledge, I think you're in the right place at the right time. I'm in marketing and I deal with the cash flow issues of my clients every single day. It affects their ability to run their law firms, is affected by the cash requirements to purchase cases on the front end, and then of course execute that through to a good result for their client. And so I think what you do is extremely important and very helpful for them because they need it. And I think you're in a very conducive environment because these days they all have require investment. And while I know you don't really focus on the investment up front, you help them maintain their cash flow, which is a big deal.
Actually, I do on the upfront. So if it's okay, I'll give you a little bit of a
Yeah.
road.
So you just mentioned that, so I didn't know if you'd focus. Tell us all about your program.
It's cool because for me, it's an evolution. It's like I look back when I started this and I look where I am now, and there's so much that has grown with me and things that I've found within the industry. So the way I identified this is, first of all, lawyers are very good at talking about how much money they make or how many cases they have or what their settlements are. But there's like this dirty truth in the industry that nobody talks about. And you mentioned it. It's the dirty words of cash flow. It's a very hard business to run. You have operations, your operations grow, your costs go up every year. You're trying to build your business, get more cases. That's sometimes competing with marketing. Sometimes it's just you getting better cases take more money to invest. And what really is the truth is these lawyers are faced with a challenge that is a flawed business model. If I said to you, Keith, hey, listen, I'm looking at a business proposition. I'm looking for investors in my business. This is what it's going to look like. We're going to give tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars to our clients. We're going to tie up our capital for quite some time. We're going to give them an interest-free loan. And let's be honest, we can honestly lose our money. It's a very good chance we can lose our money. You think this is a good business model that we can go into together? And the truth is you're going to go, hell no. But when that's my opening line in a presentation to a room full of lawyers. And they've never really been challenged or faced that kind of question. And they realize at that moment, oh my God, that's my business model.
That's me.
That's me. Think about this. Contingency lawyers are the only legal profession that does not get a retainer for case expenses.
Yeah.
Think about that.
It is literally like a gamble.
It's all gambling. That's all they're doing. And that's fine. I gamble too. That's the business we're in when you're contingency. But there's that side of the cost of the case. And again, now with all the tort reform going on too, case is going to take longer to settle. So your money's tied up. The longer your money's tied up, the more money you have to put into cases, the better the cases you get, the more money you put in. The more cases you get, the more money you put in. And then you got to hire more staff. That costs more operational costs. And there is this cycle and this vicious issue that's created for a firm. Now, what happens is some of the indirect responses is some of the smaller law firms or law firms that are struggling with cash flow have to give the cases to other lawyers that have more resources, more financial resources. So they split contingency fees. What a horrible thing for them to have to do. Sometimes these lawyers have to be faced, Keith. They are faced with the challenge of how much do I want to invest in my client's case? Do I want to get this many experts? Do I want to get the $20,000 expert or the $7,000 expert? The clients have no clue behind the scenes what's going on. They think their lawyer's great, but they really don't know if their clients don't have a resource of capital that can severely limit the ability for them to add value to the case. So again, think about it. The only reason why,
because they're fighting time. Yeah,
that's right. But think about this. Contingency lawyers, there's no fiduciary obligation for them to cover the case expenses for their clients. However, 100% of the contingency law firms and every client of yours invest their own money or some type of line of credit into the cases. Why? Number one, their clients can't do it themselves. And number two, if they didn't do it, how do they add value to the case? How do they do depositions? How do they get an accident reconstructionist? How do they get a life care planner? How do they get experts? You can't get any of it unless they put the money into it. So there comes the capital constraint, there comes the conundrum, and now comes the solution. And where has the solution been? There's been companies and banks and such that give lines of credit. What does that do? Lines of credit are great. It's still a recourse loan. They're many times high interest. That depletes your cash flow because you got to pay the interest every month. So there's a cash flow problem. And not everybody qualifies for a line of credit. So you have all these different business challenges that these lawyers are facing. And that's where I came in again and said, what is a good solution to a common problem that nobody has really been able to solve? And here I am.
That's a great, I love that. And so when did you come to the epiphany that this would be like better than, I'm sure this was not like an immediate thing. In other words, probably an evolution of things and decisions that took you from being a chiropractor to coming to the conclusion that this would be a great product and you could get behind it.
So in 2019, I got asked to do litigation financing for this new up and coming part of our industry called traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
It was the
Right.
hot thing, and it's still the hot thing. But in 2019, this was like everything else. It started in California. All the technology, all the cool stuff starts there, moves out east. Very expensive procedures, testing, reporting, and the companies that were doing this wanted to be paid up front. They don't want to work on letters of protection. So I was asked to see if I would be willing to get involved and help lawyers cover those costs. And as I started doing it, I started to realize, wow, this is really cool. And I started to look at the best way to do this. And being a doctor myself and treating concussions for years, or patients with concussions, not so much treating the concussion, I was fascinated. And then COVID hit and everything stopped. And then I had a lot of time to think. Come 2021, and I started traveling and started going to conferences around the country. I really wanted to start rolling out this great idea that I had, but it wasn't necessarily the idea on TBI. It was looking at all case costs, like the model of case expenses. And as I started to unpeel the onion and drive into it, I started realizing the costs involved with lawyers trying to keep up with the costs and the length of trial. And listen, there's a lot of lawyers that have 500. I just spoke to a young 4.5-year-old law firm. A young woman has a birth trauma law firm. You can imagine the costs involved with something like that. They have $200,000 tied up right now in their cases. And they said to me, that's going to triple in the next few months of money tied up. They're using their own money. They don't have a line of credit. Think about how are they going to do that, right? So
Yeah.
I started looking at this and started realizing, well, one thing I'm really good at is evaluating cases. I've been doing it all the way back through 2006 with medical funding. We've been doing it all these years with plaintiff funding. Why don't we do it at the case level with case cost financing, where the law firm can borrow our money so we can invest on the client's behalf. Now, remember, this is something I have to deprogram lawyers. Lawyers need to understand that these are not their case expenses. It's their client's case expenses. Their clients really should be paying for it, but they're not. So we have to deprogram and get them to rethink that you're borrowing our money to cover your client's case expenses. Now, if I'm able to do this and invest at the case level, because again, this is what's really cool. The companies that are out there, most of the companies that compete in the area of case financing that are popping up, a lot of them are doing lines of credit. And there's a difference between what I do and what they're doing. A
Yeah.
line of credit, give you an example. Can I give you an example? Common companies,
Please do. Yeah.
common companies in this industry, great companies, Esquire Bank, Advocate Capital, Counsel Financial, all been in the space for a long time. Esquire has their own niche. They all have their own niches, but they're investing in the actual law firm. You have to have a personal guarantee, personal financial statements, clear record, collateralization with the firm, history, and then they have a minimum line that they will provide to you. And that's a great way to invest in these cases. But it is a recourse advance. But they're investing in the firm. I don't invest in the firm. So I can work with 100% of the law firms because there's no pre-qualifications or benchmarks or barriers for me to work with them. It's just at the case level. So if the case looks good and they need $10,000 and the case can afford it, I invest in the case. So the lawyer borrows my money contractually with the authority from the client. Client authorizes them to borrow our money to cover their case expenses. I charge a fee every month, just like a line of credit, but we're non-recourse. We're a non-recourse model. So ironically, I work with Esquire Bank and Esquire Bank works with me. I refer them clients because my clients may want a line of credit, and that's great. They refer me clients that want non-recourse or do not qualify for their type of lines. So I get their business. We're just very different. I get paid at the end of the case. So I have to wait till the case settles. So I'm a traditional LOP-like provider, like a plaintiff advance company, like a doctor, like an MRI center, and I just wait to get paid, and I get paid from the proceeds of the settlement as a non-recourse. So really what I'm doing is I free up capital for the firm so they're not tying up their capital, They can use that money to pay for you, pay for their operations, however they want to run their business. They're no longer taking risk because it's non-recourse. And the really cool thing that I love the best, because it's really easy to sell a law firm why this is great for them. But what's really important is it's really about the client. I level the playing field. Every lawyer, when they go into litigation, fights the insurance company. It's the big behemoth, the Goliath. So what we're doing is we're going in there and we're able to level the playing field by helping invest in their case. So we have more money than a traditional law firm may have. So we allow them to get better experts. We allow them to invest more money than they would normally do to build the value of their case that they may not be able to do themselves. And that's a huge advantage for a law firm when they have access to me. Think about that young law firm, 2 years out, get a great trucking case. They got to put 50K in it. Could be really difficult. You're a minority lawyer. Hard to go to the banks and ask for a line of credit when you're a minority. Hate to say it, just the way the financial system works. It's flawed. I'm not that way. I look at the case, we look at different things, and we do this now all over the country, and it's changing the way law firms actually are able to look at their cases, build their cases, and build value. And it's exciting.
What I love about it, yes, it builds value. What else does it do, though? It ultimately helps the victim because they are more likely to get better compensation for what's happened to them.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that the claimant wants from their lawyer is a big settlement. But again, I said it earlier, not all law firms are created equal. If you hire a law firm that doesn't,
that's for sure.
It's not just experience, right? It's who's well
capitalized experience. It's all those things, but the capitalization part is huge because if it doesn't close fast enough, then it's a problem for the firm, and that's not good for the victim because they are not maybe holding out as long as they should or have the resources to get what they need to get maximum value, which is what you're saying.
Even worse, the claimant, the plaintiff, doesn't even have a clue about they were referred by their friend that did a good job.
Why would they know? Yeah. They're seeing ads that all say the same thing.
Yeah, or they were referred by a friend. My friend used them and they were great. I love them. They were awesome. And they're a great person. They're a competent lawyer, but
lots of great people.
Yeah, but they're not well capitalized. And he who has the most money to invest in on a soft tissue small case, we're not talking about those. We're talking about the birth trauma cases, the medical malpractice, the trucking cases, the big cases with big damages that have big outcomes. And how are these law firms able to grow these cases and build these cases? That's why it's good for the client, because when you have leverage money like mine and you have somebody like me that can invest in your cases, whether it be co-investing with the law firm or just fully investing at 100%, it could be a game changer for the case. And I'll even add this. I always explain this to the lawyers on our calls. There's 2 tiers to what I do. First of all, it's very easy. That's the first thing. We make it really easy, which is really cool because law firms, if you don't make it easy, they're not going to use you. Secondly, there's 2 tiers. We can pay for a case expense as it's being incurred by the firm. So instead of the firm writing a check and paying for, say, a life care planner, they can send us the invoice with the case information. We would adjudicate the case and we can pay the life care planner ourselves directly. That's an easy one. This is the cool one. This is like the evolution of the business that I didn't realize at the very beginning was, oh my gosh, how many law firms are struggling with cash flow, as you alluded to, and how many law firms have so much money tied up in cases they don't know when they're going to get it back. That's causing the cash flow. So I came up with a model all because of an introduction to a lawyer that was having cash flow issues and was not going to make his overhead and didn't know what to do. And I came up with an idea to reimburse the firm costs that were tied up in the case. And if I was able to adjudicate the case, I like the case, I can then essentially reimburse them all those costs that they've had tied up that they don't know when they're going to get back. And now that law firm has the money to actually run their business. They don't have the risk. They have their money back working for them, because really, once that money's in the case, it's dead. It's an interest-free loan that's dead. You can't get it back. And the funny thing is, I'll throw this at you too. This is something that's funny, is it's like a Ponzi scheme when you really think about it. You put money in, it's there, you get it back, goes in your account, and it goes right back out again into another law firm. It goes into another case. So it never goes away until you sell your practice. So the reimbursement model is really attractive, really fun, because if you think about just your clients, Keith, and if you ask your clients how much money they have tied up in a case, you're going to be shocked to hear how much money they have. And if you ask them, if you had that money back, what can you do with it? What would you do with it? Would you reinvest it? Would you put it in the stock market? Would you put it into Keith's marketing? What would you do? And it's certainly better than what it is now. I have the ability to reimburse them and write a check back, 100 grand, 50 grand, 250,000, right back into their accounts that would not be realized until the case settles. And my God, you want to talk about what it's like to drink Kool-Aid? That's the kicker right there. It's a game changer for a law firm that experiences that with me. Nobody's doing that. I hope nobody of my competitors is watching this or listening, but that's what I'm doing to differentiate myself in the field, to make an impact and better the business model for a flawed business model for my industry once again.
Yeah, I love that. So we have a couple minutes left here. Do you want to give us maybe a little bit of some details about your most popular product or loan, or how that works? Like how, without going into like crazy detail, like what do you offer most of the time to these contingency fee firms?
I think there's because we do two different types of financing structures. The plaintiff financing I've done for 15 years. So obviously I have a long history in following around the country, and it's a $1 billion industry where plaintiffs are needing money. So that's just a growing business and is really my bigger part of my business, only because it's been around longer. The case expense financing is exciting. It's fresh. It's impacting the law firm. It's making a difference. Although my plaintiff financing makes a difference because I'm a reasonable, less expensive financing model, because I cap my fees in 12 months and don't charge compounding interest. It's beautiful. But where the case expense financing side goes in, it's bigger money. It's making it has a lot of different benefits. It's a newer business model. So if you ask me which one is bigger, one I've done since really rolled out hardcore in 2021, and that's the case financing, and the pre-settlement I've had a lot longer. And if it's okay, Keith, just before we go, I also want to throw this out because I learned this along the way. The lawyers know this.
We have time. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I didn't know this. And this goes back into how I've evolved, my journey doing this, and how I've continued to bridge the problems with how a contingency law firm has to operate, and what I've been able to look at as far as highlighting the problems. So what I learned from another lawyer is he said to me, Howie, do you realize that when a lawyer puts money, their own money, into a case, there's a tax implication from the IRS? There's actually tax code on this. And I said, no. He goes, yeah. So when you're dealing with these lawyers, ask them how much money of their own money they have tied up into cases, and understand that's actually a tax to the firm at their effective tax rate. And I said, are you kidding me? He's like, no. Now, if they borrow money from you, that's not the case. If they borrow money from a bank, that's not the case. But the IRS does not consider when a lawyer puts money into the case as a case cost as an expense to the case. You would think it's an expense. It makes sense. Not the IRS. It's actually considered a loan to the client. So you can't write it off. So you are actually—
That's the way it's got to be put on the books.
It's put on the books. You're taxed at your effective tax rate. Obviously, when the case settles, there's an offset in your taxes through the next year. But when you think about it, it's just another flaw, again, in the business. And I wanted to add that because if your listeners, if they're putting their own money into their case and they put $500,000 into all their cases in this 2025, they understand the burden. And shockingly, a lot don't. And sadly, sometimes their accountants don't either. It's a lot of moving parts. It's exciting. I love talking about it. People want me on their—
I can tell. Yeah, and I like that. Yeah.
It's unique. So
It's unique and it's extremely helpful. It's a very helpful thing.
Yeah, and I appreciate you inviting me and letting me speak to your viewers and your
I'm glad
audience.
to have you. It's very informative. This is supposed to be about the law firm's business, not just their marketing. But you have to think of marketing in the context of business.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm all about. So I'm really appreciate you being on the show. Can you tell everybody how they can get in touch with you?
You're kind. So my website is injuryfinancing.com. My email address is Howie, HOWIE, at injuryfinancing.com. And those are the best ways to reach me. If any of your audience would like me to send other podcasts I've been on, send the link to this podcast for their friends, I'm happy to do that. I also have written blogs. I've written a lot of blogs about this industry as well. I'm happy to send that to them. If they want to reach out to me, I can always do that as well. My pleasure.
Great. Thank you so much, Howie, for being on the show. And maybe we'll have you again here soon. You have a great weekend.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving.
And same to you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Circle of Trust powered by LEXGRO. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow us and leave a review. Want to grow your law firm faster? Book a free strategy call at lexgro.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep innovating. Let's grow with LEXGRO.